This is extremely good news for the St. Louis Blues as concluding their final two draft selections. We see the Blues selecting a prospect with a lethal shot, but not only that, a goaltender that some rankings had going as high as the third round. We're going to break down everything on these prospects and so much more in this episode. You're not going to want to miss it. Before we get into it, Blues fans, we want to give a huge shout out to everyone that helped us reach our milestone of 1,000 subscribers, and you smashed it and went all the way to 1,100. We're asking a big help here. Now, if you guys can watch through entirety of videos as we're trying to push more and more into the Blues algorithm so all the fans can find our channel, make sure to watch through, hit that subscribe button. We're going to be keeping you up to date on everything to do around the St. Louis Blues going into July 1st and next season. Blues fans, you're not going to want to miss that. But that, let's just hop straight into this series. We've seen the Blues finish their final two picks in the draft, which concluded all three picks. You can pause and look through. We touched on Justin Carbonneau, but this is where we're going to start getting into two players that look like hidden gems joining this organization. The first one being Mikhail Fyodorov. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Coming out of the MHL, the Russian Junior League, he went into the season 17 goals, 26 assists for 43 points. Fans were saying that they're surprised that he fell this far in the draft. And before we really get into some crazy things about this kid, what is your overall thoughts on them going out to get the Russian scoring winger?
Yeah, I think there is one reason in particular that he fell this far in the draft to the St. Louis Blues, and it's probably his size. And I think that, when you look around the league right now and the way that the league is going, yes, you want players who are hard to play against, but I don't know if size necessarily matters. This is a guy that I think is going to be close to being ready in the next couple of years in terms of his skill set. And obviously, he has to get bigger, he has to get stronger. All those things are true in most prospects, right? But he has a shot. This guy's a sniper, and this guy's going to be able to score goals. And again, I think he fell just because of his size. But as we've seen with the St. Louis Blues, size doesn't necessarily always matter. You have a couple, shorter guys that make a big difference, especially in the playoffs. So I think that will be fine, right, as he continues to progress and develop. And I think that the St. Louis Blues actually got a pretty good one here. Now, let's all keep in mind, a lot of these guys are a couple years away, and like I said, he could be a little bit ready a bit sooner because he has this skill set and because he can score goals. And the hardest thing to do, let's not get it twisted, in the NHL is score goals. That is the hardest thing to do, right? And it's hard to find pure goal scorers. So that's what he is. He's going to absolutely light it up as he continues his development. So we'll be watching this guy very closely, and I think they got maybe a bit of a diamond in the rough there in terms of if he can put it all together, get a little bit bigger and stronger. Again, like I said, at the NHL level, there's a lot of guys who are under 6 feet tall that do score a lot of goals, do dominate at times. So that doesn't necessarily matter. We'll see how that would play off in a playoff scenario, but I think this is a very good pick at where they got him.
And I mean, we could see from the reports, and you might have seen it pop up, this was someone that people said could be a first-round talent if he's bigger. Yes, 5'11", might not be the tallest, 152 pounds. He needs to put on the weight, but he does everything you want out of a winger. He's playing in the KHL. We're seeing a lot of teams get players later in the draft because everyone is very concerned about KHL players joining their team, staying in the KHL their entire career. We're not going to touch on the Minnesota Wild, but Kaprizov was a late round pick coming in, being over a point per game player. This does have a lot of potential. Someone that can score. We've seen him in the MHL. We do want to see him jump into the KHL, the Continental Hockey League, which he might do next season. But at his age, 17 goals in 43 games, in his first stint in this, actually still playing the season before, but his first full stint, I think there's a lot of upside with this. It's a very low risk, high reward. But Blues fans, what is your thoughts on going out and getting the Russian winger? Because this kid has jets. He has a shot. He needs to put on weight. But I do think this is a diamond in the rough when you get into the future. But we'll continue straight in to Love Härenstam. And sorry if I pronounce that. And listen, it looks like love. It's not love. We'll get into that in a second. But a goaltender coming out of Sweden, put up some decent numbers playing in the Swedish Junior League. We've seen him jump into the Swedish Hockey League. He played in the U18 World Championships for Sweden. Looking at this kid, he was projected by Craig Button himself to be ranked 64th in this draft, with the Blues getting the steal in their final selection, coming in at 178. Darius, what is your thoughts on what looks like could be a very big steal coming out of this draft?
Well, I will say in terms of goaltenders in this draft, this guy, was ranked very highly. I still think that Jack Ivankovic, who ultimately went to the Nashville Predators in the same division, was the best goaltender in this entire draft, but you still get a very good goaltender in this draft. And I think goaltending is a very interesting thing for the St. Louis Blues right now. You get one of the best goaltenders in this draft. Goaltenders take a long time to develop. We know that he's probably, a lot of years away at this point. Sometimes it takes till they're 25, 26 before you see them making an impact at the AHL, right? But I think they're going to be able to take their time with him. It looks like he's going to be a really good goaltender. And one thing to keep in mind is, and I touched on this in a video I did yesterday, Hofer, they just signed Hofer, to a contract extension, and it actually expires, and he's an RFA the same year Jordan Binnington's contract expires. So they can completely retool their goaltending that year if they want to then, add like maybe a stopgap option, go out after another guy and have this guy kind of come up through the system, be the starter in the AHL at some point, or maybe he makes the jump to the NHL a lot sooner than we think, because again, it looks like he's further along in his development. He's one of the best goalie prospects. People were saying he should have been ranked a lot higher. So I think this is good work by the St. Louis Blues getting one of the best goalies in this draft. And then again, he's a couple years away, but the way that your goaltending is structured right now in terms of cap, of course, and obviously when the contracts expire, Binnington is a UFA, Hofer is an RFA the same year, a couple years down the road. So I think this is tidy work with everything. Kind of when you look at everything, an entire overview of the draft and where they are with the goaltending, this makes a lot of sense.
Because Louvet joining this, like you said, alluded to, I'll say that word once again for all our subscribers, but the big thing is, with him joining this team, like you said, it's going to be a 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7-year window till we see him jump in to this Blues organization. But the numbers, the underlining numbers, he isn't the biggest player, but he's great athlete. Butterfly style, he brings everything, real upside to be an NHL backup, and he could be a goaltender. We've seen weirder things happen, but looking at the numbers in the Junior 20 National League, a 927 save percentage. He went 1-3, but whatever. The U18 for Sweden, 13-5 with a 905. I think there's a lot of value. This is once again a very low risk, a very high reward on these two picks. And I think with the Blues, we've seen them go in with only 3 draft selections. We've seen a lot of their scouting teams say, hey, we weren't as busy, but I think we hit on all our guys. And I think they were perfectly in sense saying that, because we can go straight into, he isn't the biggest, he's athletic, makes extremely easy saves, look easy, but this continues into the fact, and if you watch this, we covered it, go check that out too. They also got Carbonneau, a power forward, a goal scorer, someone that's going to join this Blues team in probably 2 to 3 years if he continues to develop. Looking at this, I would give this an A. I wouldn't say A+, because you're not getting guys that are going to hop into the lineup immediately, or someone that was supposed to go in the first round other than the Russian kid. But I think overall, this is a very good draft, Darius. I don't know if you feel any differently, but I think the Blues hit a lot of good names in this.
I'm actually going to give it an A+, and I am curious for Blues fans, all your thoughts down there in the comments. Give us a rating on what you think the Blues draft was, but I'm going to give it an A+, and for this reason. Obviously, you see Carbonneau here. I think he's only a couple of years away, and he's going to be able to come in and score and, put up assists as well. Very dynamic player, I think, after watching some highlights the last couple of days and, listen to everybody, speak about him. Of course, himself speak on joining the team. I feel like he's only a couple of years away, so you're going to be able to add to the wing. So that's a great pick. And then when you look further than that, you only have 3 picks in this draft, like you were talking about, right? You have to try your best to hit on all of them. With your, middle pick there, you get a guy who's a little bit smaller, of course, but, can score a lot. He's an automatic weapon right now in the MHL. Looks like he's going to be progressing well once he eventually jumps to the KHL, like you said, this coming year. He's going to be able to score goals. Can he put all the tools together? I don't know. It's kind of low risk in that way and high reward, like you said. And he was projected to go higher. A lot of people were saying he could have been if he was bigger. Of course, you can't control that, a first-round talent. And then with your last pick, you got a goaltender you can kind of just let marinate, continue to develop, because you have your goaltending locked up. So this made a lot of sense to me. I'm actually going to give it an A+, because I think you got a guy who's going to make an impact at the NHL level. That's for sure, with your first rounder. And then the rest of the way, you have a guy who's a bit of a wild card, can make an impact, and then a goaltender that I think will make an impact as well. But that's a long ways away still.
But Blues fans, what is your thoughts on the draft? We know going in, they didn't have the most picks, but we did see them get very good value. What is your thought on Mikhail, the Russian winger, coming in? What is your thoughts on Louvet? This is going to be very interesting to see how they pan out going into their careers. Go ahead and leave a comment your favorite pick from this, what you hope the Blues do next. We're going to cover all of that, and if you want us to cover something in particular, go leave that in the comments. But if you made it this far, I just want to give a huge shout out. Give a huge shout out to anyone even watching this. The support has been incredible. The comments are amazing, and this has been so fun to do. But Blues fans, we want to thank you again, and if you enjoyed this, go leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back in another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I'm your host, Mark, with my co-host, Darius, and take care.